Hey, y'all, thanks for tuning in to The Crossing this week. This week's topic is the Saluda Redbank 100 race recap. I promised everybody a race recap, and here it is for you. 103 miles, 5,755 feet of elevation, and a ton of mud. Let's jump right in. Hi, welcome to The Crossing, where cycle commuting and gravel riding meet. I'm Jackal Crossing, and in this YouTube series, I'm going to share with you my cycle commute, my gravel rides, and how the two work together to make me a stronger, safer, faster rider. So grab your bike and let's go for a ride. All right, so the Saluda Redbank 100, put on by Southeast Gravel. Boyd Cycling was the title sponsor, and Rocket Revolution was the mechanic sponsor for this race. It was a lot of fun. Had a ton of racers there. Had some pros in the field, and some elites, and just some regular Joes like me. So it was a pros to Joes race, and had a lot of fun. However, if you didn't see my previous video, my race weekend didn't start on Saturday or Friday or Thursday. No, it started on Wednesday when I found that my front derailleur had a break right in the braze-on clamp. So I had to get a emergency shipment to Gildan Journeyman, where I have my mechanic. He was able to overnight a SRAM front derailleur, 2x front derailleur for me. We got that on the bike on Thursday. I was able to give it a little test ride on Thursday and Friday. Seemed like it was going to work out just fine. So luckily, I was able to shift gears. In hindsight, it probably wouldn't have mattered if I couldn't. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But I'm really grateful to Tom over at Gildan Journeyman for making sure that I had the ability to shift if need be. Loaded everything up, headed up to Edgefield, South Carolina on Friday night. And that was about 20 miles from where the race actually started. So that was the nearest hotel that I could get. I didn't want to be too far away because I didn't want a big long drive in the morning before the race. And I wanted to be able to get home back to a bed relatively quickly after the race. So I didn't have a long drive after being exhausted. So that's where we stayed. Final check on the forecast the night before. So it showed light rain in the morning and then clearing to overcast with some sun in the afternoon. So I didn't pack my rain gear. I took my windbreaker because it was supposed to start out in the low 60s, early light 50s. And when you get out in the rural areas, those temperatures tend to drop rather quickly. So I took my windbreaker with me, but I didn't take any rain gear. Didn't even take my shoe covers because I figured, well, if I'm going to go through a rain puddle or something, my feet are going to be wet anyway. So I'm not going to take my shoe covers. Saturday morning, woke up 5:30, early wake up call for a 9 a.m. start time. But remember, I had that 30-40 minute travel time from the hotel to the start line. From there, we rolled out, had breakfast at the hotel, had some really horrible coffee that did not do anything to wake me up. It was more like just brown water. We loaded up everything, got to the race area around 7:30, unloaded, got changed, got my number, got checked in, put my bike over to the mechanic, had him just run through it real quick, make sure nothing had changed. A couple of little tweaks, little adjustments, and the realization that somewhere along the way, my rear caliper for my brakes was frozen up. Only one side of the caliper piston was moving, meaning I only had half braking power. Not a good sign. We got it going as best we could, really tightened down on it, and hoped that I'd be able to stop when needed. So we line up about 15 minutes before the race starts. Everybody starts filing into the gates, and the countdown begins. All of the instructions, the safety briefing, all of that is given. We're told about a big mud hole with a car in it. We'll have to go around it. Please don't go through it because it's very, very deep. The car's buried to the axles, and the hole's even deeper than that. So we all were made very, very aware of that. From there, they started the countdown. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, riders go. And we were off like a herd of turtles. For the first 100 yards. And then the pros took off. We were supposed to have a neutral start, a combined neutral start, keep all the field together for the first mile to mile and a half until we made our turn on the first set of gravel. That didn't happen. It hardly ever does in the races I've been in. People, the adrenaline, the excitement of the race, people just take off. About that first mile in, I decided I'm not riding with the pack. They're too fast, and I still have 102 miles to go. So I backed it down to about 15 miles an hour, where they were doing 19 to 20. I just didn't feel like I needed to compete at that speed. I'm not there to win. This was a training ride for me, so I was going to go at it from that point. From there, I looked around. There were about 15 of us that kind of dropped off the main pack. We were spread out a little ways, but we were in groups of 2 to 3, 4 riders sticking together. And I looked over, and there was a woman next to me. We were riding about the same pace. We started chatting and struck up conversation. Come to find out, she and I grew up only about 20 minutes apart from each other, and we're very close in age. So we were living in the same general area at the same general time. But here we are, years later, as adults, in a gravel race in the middle of South Carolina, without ever having a thought that that could happen. Right? It was just a really cool experience to run into somebody from your hometown area that you didn't know, and what a chance meeting, right? She and I decided we'd stick together. My original plan was to ride straight through. Remember, I had all my food, I had all my hydration to get to mile 80. I had food. In hindsight, looking back, I had enough food to probably go 120, 130 miles. But meeting her changed my race plan. It really did. I had somebody that wanted to go about the same pace as me, has the same skill level. We could look out for each other. So I changed my race plan a little bit. As we approached the first rest aid station, I asked her if she wanted to stop. She said she wanted to stop and refill her bottle. I said, great, I'll stop with you. And she said, no, you can keep going. I know you want to ride on. I said, no, I'm going to, well, if it's all right with you, we could just stick together. I think, that'll be fine. And she was cool with that. So we stopped, hit the first aid station, just a couple of minute break. I shed my windbreaker, shoved it in my camelback, and on we went. About mile 23, 24, we turned off the pavement back onto some gravel. And that's when the squall line came in. We just happened to be on a road that was splitting two open fields. They had recently been clear cut, logged out, and lightning started hitting in the field. We needed to find cover and fast. But before we could, the hail began to come down in sheets. The rain was blowing sideways. I looked around for any sort of cover, and the only thing I could think to do was just ride to the bottom of a hill as quickly as we could. So we sprinted. We actually got off course by about half a mile and ended up in this bottom, down in this creek bed, kind of protected from the elements as this storm blew through. It was horrible. We were there for about 15 minutes, just kind of standing there waiting for the rain to stop, or at least the hail and the wind. Once it did, we hopped back on our bikes and off we went. Unfortunately, I didn't get any video of this because about mile 18, I hit a pothole in one of the gravel sections and my GoPro mount broke. My GoPro hit the ground. We were able to find it and I did retrieve it, but I wasn't able to reconnect it to my bike and I didn't have my chesty rig with me. So I don't have any video beyond mile 18. I will come out with that video and I'll kind of splice some of it together and put it out. But unfortunately, I don't have any really good video of this ride. Maybe that's better because then I don't have to relive it. Because the next 30 to 50 miles, some of the worst riding conditions I've ever had in my life. So yeah, after the rains moved through, you know, we're in clay country. This is red clay and orange clay, and it is the kind that sticks together. If you're not familiar with it, the gravel community calls it peanut butter mud because it literally sticks together like peanut butter and gums up everything. My tires were so caked with mud in one section that they stopped moving. My drivetrain was so impacted by mud and clay that I could not pedal. I literally stopped in my tracks. We had to get sticks, and we just dug the mud off of our bikes. This took us another 5 or 6 minutes. We found a kind of a puddle where some low lying area. We were able to wash a lot of it off that way and get back going, just to hit another one a few miles down the road, and then another one and another one. And it was just, it got so frustrating that when we would see the mud coming up, we would just get off our bikes and carry them because it was faster than trying to ride through it. Learned a lot in that. I did crash a couple of times in the mud. It was just so thick. Yeah, I've never ridden in anything like that, but I learned a lot. One of the things is, if you can find that rut and it's packed down, if you can hit solid ground in the bottom and just keep going, keep powering through it, high cadence, high power, it's going to push you through as long as you don't cake up. Another thing, when it starts to cake up, just stop. It's easier, faster, better to just stop in the moment, pick up your bike and carry it to the hard packed ground, clean it off, and then keep going. So once we got through all the mud, we hit the second aid station, only to find out that we were towards the tail end of the pack, probably within the bottom 10 at that point. This was a little frustrating to us because we felt like we were doing much better than that. However, the multiple stops that we had for the mud, the stop for the hail, that really pushed us back from the pack, and we didn't really have a chance to catch up to anybody. So now it was just she and I alone for the next 60 miles on this route. It got tough mentally. It got tough physically. There were points where both of us were ready to throw in the towel, and if it weren't for the other one, we probably would have. I remember one point where we went through a very difficult, muddy section, about mile 68. And she looked at me, and afterwards she had walked it and was caked in mud. Her shoes were covered. Her bike was covered. It was just really, really tough situation. I had been able to power through it. I found a good line and just kind of chugged right through it. Yes, I got caked up, but it wasn't as bad and it didn't stop me. And she said, you know what? At the 75 rest aid station, you just go on and I'm going to tap out there. And I looked at her, I said, no way. I'm not leaving you behind. We started together. We're going to finish together. You know, this is tough, but we can do it as long as we're together. And we spent a few minutes there cleaning off the bike, took some deep breaths, got back on the road. And when we got to that mile 75 aid station, it was a whole different story. We were refreshed. We had the opportunity to kind of stop, collect our thoughts. And when we got there, the rest of what I'm calling the struggle pack, those 10 of us that were in the back, they were there as well. So we kind of grouped up. So when we did get all grouped up there and we started leaving in small groups of 2 and 3, she and I left last, meaning there were 4 riders ahead of us. We knew there were 2 more behind us, and we knew that a few more had gone off just as we were pulling up. So of the 10, we were in that bottom 6, bottom 7. We knew this was it. The last 28 miles, we got to go. We got to ride, but we got to ride smart, right? Because we've already been in this for 75 miles. We're tired. Our legs are hurting. Our bikes are making horrible noises from all of the mud and the dry components. We re-lubed at the aid station, jumped on our bikes. As we were going, we ended up catching up to a couple of the groups of riders ahead of us. The first pack of 3 we caught, we were able to get past them. They were stopped for a mechanical issue. We got past them. They hung with us for a little while, but eventually they fell back. Then we turned off that section of gravel, hit the pavement, and there was a woman riding solo. We pulled up next to her, said, hey, you want to go with? She's like, nope, you guys go on, go get them. I'm just going to take it home. About mile 90, I got a text from my wife who was asking me where we were, that my Wahoo had stopped reporting my location 30 minutes ago. I was like, oh, that must be when we left the aid station. So I texted her back. I said, we're good. We're about 15, 20 miles out. We're coming. Just hang in there. And we kept on riding. We got to about mile 97 and I got another text. My wife said, how far out are you? And I said, we're 6 miles out. We're coming in as quick as we can. Last section of pavement. And she said, well, hurry, they're starting to take things apart here and shut down. And I looked at our clock and I knew we weren't anywhere near the cutoff time yet. And I was like, no, they can't like close down yet. We're not done. We're not at the cutoff time. So had a conversation with my ride partner. We decided it's now or never. Let's push to the end. So with that 6 miles left to go, she hooked up on my wheel. We were on asphalt and we just started going. We averaged 18 and a half miles an hour for the last 6 mile section that we were on. It was all pavement, which was very lucky. And when we got to the final turn and we could see the gates and the finish line right ahead of us, we just pulled side by side, high-fived, and crossed the finish line. It was one of the most amazing feelings to finish that epic ride like that, because it was so hard. But then to finish it with somebody who it was just as hard for, that really sense of accomplishment as a team and as an individual was there. I was so proud of her. She just did an amazing job, rocked it all day long. And just she kept my spirits up. I was able to help keep her spirits up, and we finished together. Our elapsed time was 9 hours and 9 minutes. Our ride time was 8 hours and 11 minutes. My goal was to finish in 8 or under, which, had I stuck to my plan, I probably would have, but I don't regret changing my plan. Not one bit. Meeting that person and riding with them all day really, really was an amazing experience in and of itself. Outside of the ride, just meeting this person and getting to know who they are and riding together, it was a lot of fun. That's what I think cycling is all about when you go to these events. It's the community that's created there. It's not just about you anymore and your bike. It's the community of the race. It's this own little momentary ecosystem. It's momentary community of people that are coming together for a shared passion. And I think that's what it's really all about for me. That's why I love doing this so much. I'm not going to win first place in anything. I'm not an elite cyclist. I like to get out there. I like to have fun. And that's what this was. So thanks again so much to Southeast Gravel, Rocket Revolution, and Boyd Cycling. Really appreciate all the work that you did to put this event on. It was a great event, had a lot of fun. Maybe next year I'll be riding with a 1x in case of the rain, because a 2x didn't matter anyway. I didn't need a new derailleur because I couldn't have used it anyway. Anyway, yeah, thanks so much to everybody who worked to put this on, the site support, the SAG vehicles, the EMS folks. Everyone did a fantastic job, and really, really appreciate all the hard work that goes into putting on. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you've liked this video, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and follow my journey to Unbound Gravel 2023 as I'm taking on the 200. This was a great training race for me. I feel that I do have what I need as far as knowledge of hydration, knowledge of fueling, knowledge of pacing. I'm really getting better with every event. The next event coming up for me is Valley of the Giants. That's on May 13th in North Georgia mountains, 70-ish miles with 7,500 feet of elevation. It's a real climbing beast. So I got to get in shape for that. I got 6 weeks. Well, 5.5 now, really 5.5 weeks. And I'm going to lose one of those because my bike's in the shop. But hey, you know what? That's what it's all about. That's why I got a trainer. I'll do some hard training on full gas and maybe make up for this. That's going to do it for now. But until next time, folks, have fun, stay safe, and I'll see you on the streets.